Welcome to the Wilson Centre. It's an enormous pleasure for me to be able to welcome Tarek El-Molla, the Egyptian Minister for Petroleum and Mineral Resources, here to our Wilson Centre studio. Mr. Minister, thank you so much for being with us today. I'd like to jump straight into our conversation, if I may. Talk about the recent COP27 conference meeting in Egypt. It's a critical time in the energy transition and in the fight against climate change. Progress was needed, and it seems that Egypt was able to deliver on that progress by working with key international partners. Could you please talk us through what happened at the conference and how Egypt was able to play this leadership role?
Thank you for having me, and I will jump into the answer. So COP27 was an important COP, and I think that we've been able to demonstrate that it is an inclusive COP and it is an implementation COP. So having said so, first I would say, in my opinion, first accomplishment that for the first time ever at any of the COPs, we were able to invite and to have a seat for the oil and gas companies in such COPs. And I thought that because we were always blaming the oil and gas as part of the problem, global warming and emissions, so I thought that it would be wise to have them to be part of the solution. Having said that, I think that we have been able to identify one of the thematic days, and that was the Decarbonization Day, where we have invited the oil and gas companies and as well the hard to abate industries. So we invited as well the cement, the steel and fertilizers together. But of course, as we know, it's always the oil and gas that is in front. From one side, we were able then to showcase how they can be responsible in reducing the emissions and how they can produce more energy, more fuels with less emissions. Part of that was showcasing how they would do with the methane reduction, with decarbonizing the operations and so forth. And this was something that I, in my opinion, would lead to a fair and just transition while we are speeding up with renewables, clean fuels, in order to reach where everybody would desire to have sustainable energy all the time. From one side. The other side is that of course we as Egypt also hosting this important COP, we were representing Africa, and we had an important initiative, African initiative, where we were focusing on allowing a just transition, allowing these countries to enjoy what they would find from their resources, I mean natural gas or oil or whatever, in order to be able to spend on renewable investments that is needed for transition as well. Meanwhile, I think that one of the important outcomes also of the COP27 is the loss and damage fund.
Yes.
Still mechanics has not been set out, but however, the idea of having a fund, that means that admitting of the needs of having this kind of compensations for the countries that were deprivileged and that were not up to the level that is needed for availing the proper transition. And meanwhile, that suffered from previous, I would say, emissions and global warming, while they have not been the cause of that. So in general, I think that we have set the scene and the stage for a further successful coming COPs. I would say COP28 in Emirates, and this is going to be a continuation of what we started in Sharm el Sheikh. In a nutshell, I'm very proud to have had a contribution together with my other fellow ministers, and especially Foreign Affairs, who was the COP president. So in a nutshell, in my opinion, it was a successful COP. It has made a really important landmark where it is going to be always recognized and remembered as an important, inclusive and implementation COP.
Thank you, Minister. You touched on a number of important points there. One, the need to be inclusive with both the private sector, the oil companies in particular, who are the ones who are going to be doing a lot of the work when it comes to the energy transition, obviously across international boundaries, international cooperation, and thinking about that question of equity in the energy transition. I'd like to throw in another issue here, which is that some people see a trade-off between energy transition and energy security. And over the past year in particular, with the events in Ukraine, we've all been very, very aware, sometimes painfully aware, of the costs of energy security or of energy insecurity. Egypt is an intriguing country. Egypt has hydrocarbons resources, is engaged in important international cooperations with countries such as Israel. Egypt also has enormous renewable energy transition. You yourself have talked about the hopes to reach 42% of energy generation or electricity generation by 2030 from renewables. Could you talk to us a little bit about how you see not the trade-off, but the ways in which energy transition and energy security go together in the case of Egypt?
Yeah, thank you so much for the question. I think that we have been talking about it for some years. However, perhaps I'm not talking about we as Egypt, but we as country alike, that has got some hydrocarbons and some hydrocarbons resources and power generated by hydrocarbons. So the idea of speeding the transition is very well received and accepted. However, as I was saying, we were not very much hurt. The latest Ukrainian crisis, I think that had unveiled the reality that we should be more accepting the fact that renewables are good. However, they are not ready to take over. So, and they have to go together hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with fossil fuels in order to make sure that this gap is filled and that we can bridge it successfully, so, without any pitfalls. So having said that, I think that together with COP27, with the war, politics has come together and made some good tune-up with industry. And when you talk about industry, we talk about energy industry in general, whether oil and gas or renewable energies. And they are now seeing a lot of synergies, and I think that we will see in the coming few years a good implementation and speeding up, because we are all aligned now, and we are, I mean, to some good extent talking the same token, and we are on the same wavelength. Egypt is not far from what I'm saying. Actually, we have, by the way, we have chosen natural gas, which is representing more than 65% of our hydrocarbon consumption from one side. Energy mix will include nuclear generation, as well as wind and solar, and clean fuels, specifically hydrogen.
Yes.
And when we talk about hydrogen, we have put our strategy that includes low carbon hydrogen That means that we can swing from blue hydrogen to green hydrogen, depending on the economics. So therefore, I think that our energy mix is comprehensive, is really realistic, diversified, and includes many kinds of energies that would allow Egypt to transit really into sustainable energy and sustainable economy.
These are many of the issues that we're going to be looking at our new Wahba Institute on Strategic Competition here at the Wilson Center, and our work on navigating a shock-free energy transition. I'd like to bring the conversation back for a second to natural gas, to LNG, and to what has been achieved in recent years through bilateral cooperation and then multilateral cooperation on the part of Egypt with its neighbors in the region on creating a natural gas and LNG facility to be able to not just provide for self-sufficiency, but to be able to think about exporting to other parts of the world that need that gas desperately at this point in time. I know that you were instrumental in the setting up of the East Mediterranean Gas Forum. I wonder if you could talk us through where we are today on that important initiative.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Actually, I feel pride of having this East Mediterranean Gas Forum created and incepted a few years back, having Cairo as the headquarters of this forum. We have with us many important countries, whether founding members or observers. We have, demonstrated that gas, natural gas, could be a catalyst for peace, catalyst for the welfare and the well-being of the member countries, and could perhaps be extended. I think with the latest developments, geopolitical, energy crisis, global changes, and with the recent COPs, I think it has been more and more crucial to have more cooperation among countries. And I think that we had a vision on having such important forum set a few years back, while now when it is needed, this gas is needed, so there is a reliable source of supply to Europe, which is the East Mediterranean. So what's happening now is that we are currently engaged in accelerating more and more gas to come from Cyprus, from Israel, and perhaps we've heard and we have seen the latest maritime demarcation, delineation between Israel and Lebanon. So perhaps this will come soon as well one day. We have seen opportunities for Gaza marine field. We have exploration there in for gas, so this could come on stream also someday soon. So the pie will get bigger and bigger. Our dream is, next step would be not East Mediterranean Gas Forum. I would say that it would be East Mediterranean Energy Forum, so that would include renewable energies and all kind of clean energies. And ultimately another very ambitious dream would be Mediterranean Energy Forum. So not East, not West, or the Mediterranean Forum. And I think that this will be altogether a very comprehensive effort for more cooperation between countries and more cooperation between countries that has got some energies that could be used on the other side of the Mediterranean, which is Europe. So therefore more cooperation, and that will give even more, I would say, sustainable future cooperation among countries, and that will lead, of course, in more and more peace, which is needed definitely in our time.
Absolutely. And when we have the Mediterranean Energy Forum, I want to invite you back here to sit in this studio, but also to talk to our audience here in Washington. Tarek El-Molla, thank you so much, Egyptian Minister for Petroleum and Mineral Resources. It's been a distinct pleasure to talk to you today. To our audience, please stay tuned to the Wilson Center for more programming on energy and the Middle East. and stay tuned to this spot. Thank you.
Thank you.